we shouldn't see the government's job as to protect us from ourselves. Their job is to allow us to live in liberty and minimize the harm that can be done to us by the government itself. Right now, it seems like the government is coming along and repeatedly kicking you in the nuts and expecting you to say thank you for doing that, because right now they're causing more harm than good.
That's right. Right. It could have been worse. You could have had your nuts cut off. Aren't you grateful? I'm protecting you.
Pistols, prayer, and potluck. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 234. Thank you so much for making Armed Lutheran Radio part of your week. For those of you new to the show, thank you for joining us. For those who are not, this probably sounds a little bit different. Why does it sound different? Because I'm sitting in my car with a headset trying to record the intro for this week's show. We were supposed to start moving back to our house this week. Didn't work out. Everything's been delayed again. Thank you, COVID-19. 2020 just continues to be insane. And I knew this was going to be a short intro. I didn't want to drive across town to go to my studio to record for 5 minutes. So this is what you get. Me in the front seat of my car in the garage with a headset. I hope it doesn't sound terrible, and I thank you for bearing with me. I will only be with you for a few moments. For those of you who are new, this is our variety show week. What we do every other week is we have content from our awesome cast. Sergeant Bill Sylvia is our resident competitive shooter. Mia Anstein is our hunting guide and commenter on women's issues regarding guns and hunting. And Pastor John Bennett will pontificate on ethics and theology and culture. Though today we have something a little bit different because everyone was so busy. I've got a ballistic minute from Sergeant Bill from a couple of weeks ago that I have left over. And Pastor Bennett and Mia could not be with us, so I have classic editions of Mia's Motivations and Pastoral Pontifications today. So it's just me and Sergeant Bill, basically. But before I turn the show over to them, I do want to thank the awesome men and women who make this show possible, the members of the Reformation Gun Club. This week, I want to give a special shout out to Melvin and Mitch and Paul and Robert, Calroy and Scott. Thank you all so much for your support. Armed Lutheran Radio would not be possible without you. See, we are a listener-funded podcast. That means we don't have any sponsors. We don't have any advertising. We rely on the generosity of the members of the Reformation Gun Club, whose monthly contributions help us keep the lights on. Members get access to the show early each week. They get some cool Armed Lutheran swag, access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content on a new website, by the way, and invites to our monthly online hangouts, one of which is coming up very soon. I'll have an announcement about that this weekend. And if you'd like to join them, if you'd like to help us keep going, if you value what you hear here on the show every week, I hope you'll check it out at gunclub.armedlutheran.us. Look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. Check out all the benefits and all the membership plans there, and I hope you'll come and join us. All right, before I turn things over to the cast, one last thing from me today. This week, of course, for those of you who have not heard, marked the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She died at age 87 on Friday. She was an ardent supporter of the supposed right to murder the unborn, an opponent of the traditional definition of family, and of your unalienable right to bear arms. She was not a friend of traditional Orthodox Bible-believing Christians. or of gun owners. Her passing will make, I think, an insane election cycle even more insane. Democrats and the media have worked to destroy the economy, to investigate and to impeach and to spy on our president, to riot and to burn and to kill in order to regain or maintain their power. And they're now faced with the real possibility of losing the courts by having a nominally conservative president choose another Supreme Court justice in the same vein as, say, a Kavanaugh or a Gorsuch, which would tilt the court to the right. The courts are sort of the last bastion of the left. Despite popular opinion and national and local elections, it's been the vanguard for the left in advancing the moral decay and decline, the depravity that is the core of the base of the political left, the Democrat Party in this country. Politically, she's not going to be missed. I am not sad to see her go from the courts. But as a Christian, we should be praying for Justice Ginsburg's family. We should be mourning her loss. We should be offering our condolences to her family for their loss. Because as evil as the political left has become, we shouldn't be stooping to their level. I've seen responses on the left and the right that I want to say I'm surprised by. I'm not. I've seen people celebrating the fact that she's gone, and other people on the left saying it's too bad it wasn't a conservative judge who died or President Trump. We have talked on this show many times lamenting the lack of unity in this country, but we're never going to be unified if we perpetuate the cruelty and the indifference of the left. We've got to be better than that. We should be an example to the rest of America and to the world, really. Proof that gun owners, that conservatives, that Christians, we're the normal ones. We're the reasonable people, the compassionate people, despite our political differences. So I would encourage you to be civil in any of your dealings in social media as a result of the passing of Justice Ginsburg. And I certainly hope that things don't get even more out of hand in this country in the run-up to the November elections. On behalf of everyone here at Armed Lutheran Radio, I want to send out our condolences to the family of Justice Ginsburg. Well, we do disagree, obviously, with most of her opinions. We're grateful for her service, and we pray for comfort in what I know must be very difficult times. And of course, we pray that her passing is marked in this country with a reverence and respect in these already irreverent and disrespectful times. All right, that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to tune in again next week when, Lord willing, Pastor Bennett and I will be back together again for another Clinging to God and Gun show. Until then, sit back and enjoy the show, and I will talk to you next week.
Time now for Mia's Motivations with Mia Anstein.
Hey everybody, hi Lloyd. I am happy to be back. I am literally just returning from a whirlwind trip. I went with the folks at Beretta USA, and they took me to the Saco plant in Finland. And that was quite an adventure. I had never been to Europe, so it was my first time on that direction of the world. After we toured the factory, we headed out to a shooting range because we were going to head to Russia to hunt. And so the Finns took us to the shooting range because in Finland, you actually have to pass a shooting test. They have a timed test where you shoot 5 rounds into the kill zone of a brown bear silhouette. And after that, the next day, we traveled over to Kuusamo, which is still in Finland, but it's on the border of Russia. Russia. And then we drove through the border of Russia, which was quite an event. We were instructed to be very quiet, no smiling, no laughing, no joking, so that we could get through the checkpoint rather quickly. And for 4 riders and 4 SACO employees and a Breda employee, it only took us 5 hours to get through the checkpoint to get into Russia. The time that it takes is actually because when you're going into Russia, they take photographs and they weigh everything you're bringing in as far as the firearm goes. They weigh the gun case with the gun in it. They want the ammunition in the same case as the gun. And they take photographs of the serial number of the rifle, the serial number of the scope on the rifle. They take photographs of what ammo you're bringing and how much you're bringing in. And then the reverse is done on the way out. So after that, we had a 5-hour drive up to hunting camp. And once you cross the border into Russia, it was dirt road, washboard, gravel. That was for 2 hours. And then we took a turn onto a 2-track Jeep trail road. And we were crossing rivers and creek beds and stuff like that in the vehicle. So we were there to hunt brown bear and moose. We headed out to the blind about 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and this is where I know that God's always with us, because this is a kind of a comical story in hindsight. I don't think the guide thought it was amusing, but I had requested a guide because I'd never hunted in Europe, much less in Russia, and I've never hunted brown bear. So I wanted the best opportunity possible. I didn't want to make any mistakes, and I wanted to see if I could tag a brown bear. So this guide is with me, and he didn't speak much English. So this bear comes sloshing in, and the guide is whispering to me, telling me that there's a bear, which I understood. I could see this ominous silhouette just looming out there, and it would traverse to the left, and then it would kind of hover back to the right. And I'm looking at it, and he's kind of asking me if I could see it, and I'm like, yes, I can see it. And with it being early morning hours and with that moonlight, I kind of looked through my binoculars, because I have Swarovski binoculars, which do gather a lot of light, and I'm aware of how much light they can gather. So I looked through there, and I'm still only seeing this ominous black silhouette just kind of hovering out there. And I told him, yeah, I can see that bear. And he said, okay, never mind. And once the sun came up, I'm still looking for bears, and waiting. And then at 10 in the morning, we left the blind, and another rider went into that stand. And when we got back in and we came to an interpreter, he asked, did you see the bear? I said, yes, I saw the bear. And he says, well, why didn't you shoot the bear? And I said, well, it was too dark to shoot the bear. And he says, didn't you have a light? And I was like, well, yeah, I have a light. I had a headlamp on my hat. And he said, well, why didn't you turn on your light? And I was like, what? A little bit confused there, because I'm from out west in the United States, and spotlighting is very much frowned upon and highly illegal. So here I was, an American in Russia, and had this big ominous black bear hovering out there for quite enough time to turn on a light, gather a focal point, and shoot. And little did I know we were supposed to shoot these bears in the dark. So the whole story, as I said, it kind of makes me laugh now, because it reminds me of Genesis 11 and the story of Babel, and how we want these things, and they're not necessarily what God intends for us. And so there's that babble. This guide was trying to tell me to turn on my light to shoot the bear. And unfortunately, because of the babble, I had no clue what he was telling me. And the two of us went through similar situations 2 more times, because we went to that same stand the next night and had a plan of me telling him when to turn on the light so I could shoot. And we kind of rehearsed this before we went up there. But when the time came, he didn't understand what I was saying. So no light and no bear. And there's all that babble. So that's quite the adventure. I hope that you have more success in your hunts than I had in my Russian hunt. And as I said, it was a ton of fun. It was a lifetime lifetime experience that I'll never forget. And not just the hunt. It wasn't about the hunt. It was about the experience of going to a different country, seeing their customs, learning their traditions. Anyways, my tip to you is step out of your box. Always know what God has intended for you and accept it, and you will definitely be happy. And so I'll be sharing more adventures with you after I recover from this jet lag, and next week maybe I'll have a little tip.
You can read more from Mia, watch her YouTube videos, or check out her podcast, Mac Outdoors with Mia and Leah, at miaandstein.com. Time now for another Ballistic Minute with Sergeant Bill Sylvia.
Hey everybody, I'm Sergeant Bill and this is your Ballistic Minute. Today I want to talk about running carry gear at an IDPA match. Now you can run it at a local match and it will add stress because you're using your carry gear. You're not using your Go Fast, even IDPA has gamer gear. So you're not using a vest, you're not using a strong side hip holster that's got the gun slightly away from your side. You're going to have concealed carry, which for most people that means not appendix because you can't use appendix in IDPA, but it's going to be an in the waistband or a close to the body type holster that you're going to have to get your hand behind when you do your draw or get your magazine out, because real carry gear, good carry gear, is going to hold your equipment, your gun and your magazines or anything you might have close to you so that it's easier to conceal. So using that carry gear that's going to be a little bit more difficult to use is going to add stress. So to make shooting that local match with that gear a little more valuable. And it will be valuable because it gives you practice with your concealed carry gear. Instead of just going to the range and practicing with your concealed carry gear or doing dry fire at home, you actually are going to be on the timer. You're going to be on the clock trying to get fast, accurate hits and reloads and all that stuff in front of your friends. So you've got a little bit more pressure on you added there. Now, running your concealed carry gear at a local match will help you to vet your gear. So you'll know if your holster is easy to draw from or if it's got too much retention or if it clips under your belt properly. You'll also learn very quickly if your mag pouches are performing up to your standards. Now, one of the things you're going to have to do when you're shooting a local match with your concealed carry gear, especially if you haven't done it before, is you need to kind of lower your expectations. So you need to have less stress about your performance. You're probably not going to be winning the matches. You might still do really well, but you're not going to do as well as you would with your, concealed carry gamer vest and a gamer type holster and mag pouches that are going to be set up to be as efficient and as fast as you can under the IDPA rules. Now, if you just want to run it at some local matches here and there to test out your gear and get some valuable practice and add in stress, then that's great. I try to do it every now and then. Actually, I try to do it more in the off season when there's not big matches coming up. So, I get to test my gear and try out new holsters if I want to get a new holster or whatever. Now, if you've done that enough and you decide, hey, I want to take this to the next level, sign up for a sanctioned match and shoot with your concealed carry gear. Now, first of all, it's going to up the stress levels even higher because you're probably going to travel and it's going to cost money to get there. You're going to have hotels and meals and match fees that are all more expensive. So your stress level for how you're going to do is going to be a little bit higher. You're going to have higher expectations and it's going to be a little more difficult. It will be nice because you'll have less gear to transport. So if you're using your concealed carry gear, well, you're going to be carrying anyways. So you have that equipment with you. You won't have to worry about toting around extra guns and this and that. Now, it wouldn't hurt to have a spare gun, but you won't have to have a big giant range bag and a whole bunch of stuff because you'll have all your gear on you for the most part. Now, a lot of people probably won't say this, but I'll say it. I think anybody I see running their carry-styled gear at a sanctioned IDPA match, and they're doing well with it, to me, they get bragging rights because they're doing it the way it was meant to be. They're actually using their carry gear, their carry guns, and to me, that's just awesome, to run your carry gear, your carry gun, and do it successfully. I just think that's outstanding. So if you want something different, something new, and you really want to amp up your concealed carry skills, then take your gear to a local match. Then if you really want to take it to the next level, go to a sanctioned match and run your concealed carry gear in IDPA. I'm Sergeant Bill. This has been your Ballistic Minute.
Sergeant Bill Sylvia is a veteran of the Dallas Police Force and a masterclass competitive shooter. You can check out his YouTube videos at armedlutheran.us/Sergeant Bill. It's time for Pastoral Pontifications with Pastor John Bennett.
Hello, this is the Pistol Packing Padre, and you are listening to another installment of Pastoral Pontifications. Today I want to talk about a concept that I call voting for your neighbor. Now, I think we might have covered this, Lloyd and I, a long time ago on the podcast. I can't recall, but since we are in an election year, in case you haven't noticed, like you've been living under a rock or something, yes, it is an election year, so an appropriate time to talk about this. So oftentimes it's easy when it comes to elections to become complacent. We take a look at what's on the ballot and say, well, that doesn't really affect me. Why should I even bother showing up? I grew up in Southern California. I was living in Southern California when I became of legal voting age. There was a part of me that said, what's the point of showing up to vote? My vote is just going to get outweighed by the large majority of liberals that are voting against me anyway. Why even bother? And yet I always showed up to do my civic duty. I can't think of a single election, even off-year elections, that I have missed since I turned 18. You could also look at this another way. For those of you living in Texas, well, what's the point of showing up to vote for Trump? He's going to win anyways in Texas, so why even bother? Why go to the effort? Well, it's actions like that that cost Hillary the election last time. People thinking the exact way about Hillary Clinton. Heck, I don't like her too much, and, she's going to win anyway, so why even bother? Vote for your neighbor. Oftentimes there are measures on the ballot that can negatively impact those that are around you. Even if it doesn't affect you, show up and vote. Vote for those things that really matter. Showing up doesn't do anybody any good. Sure, you can say, yeah, no, I didn't cast my vote for this or that person because I didn't care for them. But in the long run, does that benefit you? Or is staying home doing more harm than good? As you start to look forward to this, well, no one's really looking forward to this election, let's be honest. But as the time approaches for the election, take the time to read up on all the proposals that are being made in your local area. There may be bond referendums just like the one that got passed here in my area that could negatively impact you or your friends or family. Be sure to read up on all of the candidates that are running for office. There's a lot of times where you look at a ballot and you've got local offices and you have no idea who these people are. Take the time to learn who these people are, what they stand for before you cast a vote. Certain offices don't indicate a party either way, and so you're left either just voting for some random person or not voting at all. Take the time to learn who the best person to vote for is, the person that will support your Second Amendment rights, the person that will defend the right to life for the unborn as well as the elderly, because, hey, let's face it, we're now living in the age where more and more people, more and more politicians even, are pushing for physician-assisted suicide. You see, it's often said that voting is a civic duty, and in many ways it is. Too often, bad things happen when people sit at home on their butts, being perfectly content with whatever the result is. Don't be one of these people. I wonder how many of those people that sat home in Virginia this last election are now regretting the decision that they made as they see the legislature and the governor try to erase their Second Amendment rights. Well, I've gotten to the point where I'm beginning to ramble on and on about this, so God's blessings to you. I hope and pray that you will do your civic duty this coming election, that you will read up on all of the issues and the candidates that are running for office, and cast the vote that best represents you, represents your political convictions regarding the Second Amendment and the right to life, as well as reflecting your Christian faith. Christ's blessings to you all.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.